Hi, my name's Chris Hill. I'm a partner development manager here at Kofax. Today, I would like to talk to you about a feature of Kofax Total Agility called link servers. In this presentation, we'll go through what link servers do, when you should use the link server feature, and then I'll give you a demonstration of how to configure the link server, and then I'll finally conclude with some important notes that you need to take into consideration when deploying link servers so that you can be successful with your implementation. So what is a link server? Simply put, a link server is a mechanism to transfer documents and scanned images from one KTA system to another. So it creates a two-way link between two physical KTA installs. So in order to deploy link server, it requires that you have a full install at each of your remote sites and your central sites, and this includes the database. But like everything in Total Agility, link server can be scaled out to be highly available and also accommodate load balancing. Link server allows documents to be moved in either real time or on a scheduled basis from one system to the other. And then it's also going to assist in high speed remote web scanning and MFP integration. The diagram you're looking at is a common scenario where link server is deployed. You can see that high speed scanning is required at both the central and remote sites. Without link server, the high speed scanning works perfectly at the central site. However, at the remote site, we'll run into some challenges. The main challenge is that the network bandwidth at the remote site is oftentimes too slow, and this can cause frustration with the scan operator, as the scanner will be running much slower than its rated speed. This can be resolved by placing a link server at each remote site. When I think of link server, it reminds me of the cutoff man in baseball. When the outfielder throws the ball from the outfield to home plate in an attempt to get the runner out, the ball has to get to the catcher quickly and before the runner gets there. Some outfielders don't even have the arm strength to get the ball to home plate, or other times the ball just takes too long to get there as it rolls into the catcher. This is why many times baseball teams will have a cutoff guy catch the ball from the outfielder and throw the ball home in an attempt to get the runner out. Two fast, accurate throws are more effective than one slow, inaccurate throw. And to me, this relates to link server, as link servers are similar to the cutoff man, and the slow, inaccurate throw kind of relates to the bandwidth that is experienced at remote sites. Okay, for this demo, I have two environments set up. I have our central site and then what I'm calling our remote site set up. What you're looking at here is the remote site. Now, the first thing we need to do to get our remote site to communicate to our central site via link server is we have to point our remote site's license server to the central site license server. So right now, the name of this server is called Storyboard, and I'm going to point it to our central site license server. So I just came into the system settings under my license server section, and here I'm going to go ahead and change my license server to point to my central site license server. Oh, okay. So that's the name of the central site license server. So I'm going to save that setting, and then it's going to ask me to do an IIS reset and then restart the core worker service and also start the total agility streaming service. Okay, so now it's time to set up our first link server. So we're going to link our remote site to the central site so we can scan documents at the remote site, and then we're going to transfer them to the central site so they can be validated at the central site. So the first thing I need to do from the remote site is add my link server. And this is done through the integration node from the Total Agility Designer home screen. And then that'll bring up a list of icons. The icon you want is the link servers, and then you just click this plus sign to add a new one. In this case, I already have one configured, as there's a lot of settings to configure, and I'm going to talk you through this. So the first thing you have to do is give it a unique name, and you want to make this name something that identifies the location of where the document is going to. And then you put in the URL. So you've got two sections here. You've got the current server and the target server. So the current server is your current environment. So in this case, I'm going to put in the URL for my current location, and I want you to pay close attention to this URL. So it's just the Total Agility website. So it goes http:/server name / Total Agility. Then you have to type in the appropriate username. So in this case, the username for this one is administrator, and then type in the password. The target server is where the document's ultimately going to be going. So, and these settings need to be very specific as well. So for the URL, same format as the current server with the Total Agility virtual directory. Then you type in the name of the username that it's going to be connecting to. and then you give it and you type in the password. Down here, these two settings down here are very important. So you have two options. You can do um, one-way or two-way communication. So one-way means that the document is just going to move from the remote location to the central location. But if you do two-way, then it can move from the remote location to the central location, and then back from the central location back to that same remote location. And then this final option down here, send reporting data. This will give you the ability to get some key KPI metrics, such as how many pages were scanned, who scanned it, what the processing speed, and all that kind of stuff. So if you want the reporting data, then you want to hit yes, and it'll transfer all of that information up and keep it at one central location at the central site. So once this is all configured, you hit OK, and it will save your settings. Okay, now that we have our link server added to the environment, it's time to create a business process and start using the link server environment. For the use case and for this demo, I'm going to have the users at the remote site scan in a document, and then Total Agility is immediately going to transfer and move that document from the remote site to the central site. And then at the central site, we'll perform validation. So the business process looks pretty simple. It's got the start node, an end node, and then a transfer activity node in the middle. This transfer activity type is selected from the capture section, and then you just choose transfer. Now to configure the transfer activity, there's a few options that we need to configure to make it work properly. The first thing we have to do is select our linked server. So I'm going to select the link server we configured moments ago. Now I'm going to select my document variable, and then I could select the job type. In this situation, we're actually going to do a create new job, but you could also do a create new case or create a job in case. Now I'm going to select my process of where this job's going to go to. So what's happening here is, if you notice, when I click process here to select all my processes, I've got a list of business processes that don't exist on this machine, and that's because these are all being pulled back from the business processes that are located on my central site. The one I've created for this situation is just called validation, and I'm going to drag validation in there. Then this option right here, this is a powerful option. So you can either, if something happens during that transfer where it errors out, or there's a problem with the network or something along those lines, you can just have the job suspend. However, there's a whole bunch of information that you could get back, and you could manipulate that information. So if you say, don't suspend the job on air, but keep it in there so we can have somebody look at it, you can store that error information inside of a variable. And just to give you an idea of what you're looking at from that error code information, is here's a list of all the different errors that could have happened. And that'll really help somebody from a troubleshooting perspective, and they can keep that job alive and fix it and move it on through the process. So in this case, that's actually how we're going to configure this. So for my error code, I'm going to go ahead and grab a variable that I created, and this is just a string variable that'll hold all that information, and I'm going to have my error code there. Now down here, you'll notice it's asking for an initialization variable. This initialization variable is coming from that validation process that's located on my central site. So let me link in the appropriate variable that goes along with that initialization variable, and in this case it's going to be my document, and this is because we're transferring the document back and forth between the remote site and the central site. Now that my business process is all configured properly, I'm going to release this. Alright, now that we have everything configured from adding our link server to our business process on the central site and our business process on the remote site. So I've mentioned this a few times, but what we're trying to do is scan a document at the remote site, have it immediately transferred to the central site, and then at the central site we'll perform validation. So in this case, you're looking at the scan module at the remote site, and I'm going to scan in a document. Naturally, I don't have a scanner attached to my machine, so I'm just going to browse out to a pre-scanned image. And I grab my pre-scanned image, I look at the image quality, I'm happy with it, and I send it on its way when I hit create job. So what should be happening immediately is it went straight to that transfer activity, and now it's going to be pushed over to the central site. Let's just take a quick look and see where this document is at. Okay. Okay. So you can see we scanned it in, it transferred it, and then the job completed. So now I'm going to switch over to my central location and we should have a job that's sitting in validation. So looking at my work queue on the central site, I'm going to hit the refresh button and see if that job made it over. And as I hit the refresh button, you can see there's my validate job, and now I'm ready to validate this process, and it's going to go downstream and do all the other business process and everything else that's configured in our map from here on out. To conclude this presentation, there's a few last important notes that I want to leave you with. So at this point, we went through how to configure the link server. We went through what the link server is, and I just want to rehash a few last really important points. Number one is link server requires a full install of Total Agility, and that does include the database. The second thing is the documents are moved, not copied from the main server to the target server. And the final thing is the extraction of classification groups are also not automatically created on the target server. You either have to export those out from your current server or you have to manually create them on your target server. And that's what I have for the link server today. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, you get something out of it, and happy TA developing.